Okay.
Cammy.
Yes. Hi.
Good to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. With me today is Cammy Breeveld. She's the organizer of Striktly Salsa and Bachata, which is one of the largest dancing organizations here in the Netherlands. Do you want to introduce yourself beyond that?
Sure. And first, I'd like to say, I think the party that you have attended in your beginning of salsa dancing, right?
That is true. Yes. When I started dancing, this was around 9 years ago. I was studying in the city of Rotterdam at the Erasmus Dance Society. I was taking some classes. And every Tuesday, I would go, after my classes, I would go to your events, which is the outdoor dancing in the heart of the city, close to the municipality. This is an event that has been running for how many years?
Well, this is part of my introduction. That's a nice bridge. It's been since 10 years ago, 2015. You were there also from the beginning.
From the beginning.
Yes.
Oh, amazing. Yes.
So for my introduction, I am organizing different events within salsa and bachata. It's been born out of the personal need to connect and everything that has been giving to me socially. I love the social vibe within salsa and bachata. My name is Cammy. I'm from Rotterdam and I have 2 amazing sons and my husband that I met through dancing.
Wow.
Yes, really appreciative about what dancing brings me totally in my life.
Very connected to the scene. That's your personal life and your work.
Yes.
Yes. And you even started organizing a festival a few years ago. One of the only outdoor festivals, actually, that I think I've ever been to.
That is actually on purpose because Shine Festival that it has 2 editions now. I want a different festival that's not focused on upgrading skill. Yes, you can upgrade skill, definitely, but it's not the main focus. Where I think most festivals are, and which is amazing. But here it's focused on the social vibe. And outdoors, even though in the Netherlands that is quite a challenge.
Oh, big risk.
Yes, the outdoor vibe is amazing.
Yes.
And it is something that is really adding value to the experience. And it's really adding value. I think if you experience different festivals outside the salsa and bachata scene, there is this outdoor festival vibe that I want to connect with the partner dancing. The current festival vibe outdoor with the current social vibe of what salsa and bachata partner dancing brings, those 2 together, I think provides an amazing experience.
Yes, that's a great approach to dancing that you have. One of the reasons why I think it's particularly nice to have you on this podcast is because I often talk about gender dynamics in my interviews. And one of the things that we hear a lot is that a lot of the people with power or organizing events in the scene tend to be men. And we have a few strong women like yourself that organize events at a larger scale. Or for you have a very strong foothold in the Netherlands. And of course, internationally, we have a few large events, for example, like El Sol by Anya, who I will have on the podcast as well soon, which are a nice example of women who put their mark in the scene. And one of the things that I want to hear from you is if that is something that you actively experience as being different, you being a woman in the scene versus many men that organize these events.
I think that it helps that my personal perspective is about feeling safe. And I think it's good to start at where I began as a woman, that I had the need and the want to dance and to express myself freely without hassle, without being harassed by drunken people or by people who think that because I dance, I have more attentions than dancing, which you might experience in a club. I love to dance, but I'm a social dancer. And I didn't know about salsa and bachata. I was in Madrid. I heard awesome music, didn't know that it was salsa. And I experienced at that moment, for me, as the first time, looking at other women who were dressed beautifully, who were dancing all out, but they weren't harassed. So I saw a very respectful vibe, giving a high five after a dance, a hug after a dance, which is now very common to us and everybody probably watching the podcast. Yes. But it is not common. It wasn't common for me back then, that you can be beautiful, that you can be yourself. And I don't mean with beautiful is that you don't have to think twice about wearing this skirt or wearing this dress. dress. That was like eye-opening for me. I was like, what is this? This was the salsa scene. And I wanted more of this because of the safe feeling that I felt. And that is actually, I think, what I want to bring until today into my events. And that means great responsibility if now we have weekly outdoor events, weekly indoor events. We receive, I think, more than 80,000 people now per year.
Wow.
Not unique, also recurring people that weekly come back. But I think that's a great responsibility. And now this safe feeling has been expanded, not only through me being as a woman, but also expanded. I want to expand this for everybody so that everybody has the experience that when you attend the event, that it doesn't matter where you come from, if you're a beginner, if you're a foreigner, if you're really high skilled, if you're tall, if you're not tall, it doesn't matter that you feel safe. And I think because of experiences as a woman not feeling safe, I think that's a big different approach, different point of view.
Yeah.
To answer your question, if my approach as an event organizer is different.
And throughout your journey, have you also experienced difficulties because you were a woman organizing events?
No, I don't think so. I am actually used to I am very active, ondernemend, very entrepreneurial, yes. And that's been all my life. And all my life I experienced that people, yes, there is a woman aspect in also being overseen. When it comes to organizing and I'm standing on the big floor and there comes somebody who makes the delivery and then they're looking for the boss and they're looking for a man.
Yes.
Yes, I experienced that, but I don't see it as a difficulty. I think it's funny. I think it's because then in this particular situation, it was my husband who he approached, who was like a little bit bigger figure, also a little bit more authoritative presence. And then he was like, oh, I don't know, there's the boss.
Exactly.
And then it's solved. So I don't make an issue out of it. I don't really experience it. But of course, I do see that there's sometimes, I think, different expectations from people behind the scenes.
And what about your collaboration or interactions with other organizers?
I think for me, they are all very, very good. I'm very happy and very grateful for all the good connections. And I think a big part of it is that I really value communication. When I started Striktly, I intentionally called every organizer. Some responded like, hey, I appreciate it. Some responded like, hey, who are you?
Yeah.
And I didn't mind because I wanted to set out the intention. I wanted to let you know personally what I'm going to do. It's on a Tuesday. It's been really well thought of that it's not in the way of any other party. This is me. This is my number. Here you can approach me. And from there, not many people really took the invite at that moment. And it's okay because I was just starting. But I think that made a big difference in how I started. And I try to be aware of that as today. Also as starting a quite relevant new party in The Hague, which is, of course, a new area. And there I also took the same approach about first trying to see who's already active there. Who can I reach out to?
Yeah.
I think it's important to reach out for good relationships.
Yes.
And I think that helps now on long term to have good relationships with, because it's also a value for me.
No, that's great. The collaborative approach instead of just trying to compete, because in the end, I think we all share the same goals of making the dancing scene a pleasant experience for everyone. To go back to what we started the conversation with, your experience of going as a woman to Madrid and seeing how pleasant the dancing was and wanting to expand that to the Netherlands and maybe beyond. That is a big topic for today in our conversation. You being an organizer, seeing a lot what goes on at events. I think when we talk about what makes an experience unpleasant for people, this can mean a lot of things and also different things for men versus women. And what would you consider to be the biggest annoyances or experiences that make events or dancing unpleasant for certain people?
Well, there is, of course, the physical connection and the physical touch. Which is what it's all about. But I think within this physical aspect, there's a lot of gray area. Luckily, I have, in the past 10 years, not experienced an escalation. So I have not experienced somebody who has felt like completely harassed. So that's beautiful, I think, first to say. But before we go to this end point, which is totally no-go, if we're talking about crossing boundaries, that for me, we don't have to talk about a lot because that's no-go. That's like, I take measurements, we have security, and we have clear rules and regulations about when it happens, when somebody feels harassed.
Yes. So straight up incidents like physical violence, inappropriate touching, or verbal assault. I'm not sure at what point that crosses boundaries. And
we have zero tolerance.
There's no tolerance. And of course, I think everybody agrees. There's nobody that will say, that doesn't make sense, right?
Yes. And I think that the thing that we can talk about is before zero tolerance, because there is a lot of gray area, because there is how people feel safe. I think it's very depending on also people themselves in a sense of what is gray area? And I have quite a few examples of it. Maybe I can start with an example so we know where to start.
Yes, so we have an idea of what we're talking about.
Yeah. So I think a very beautiful example is that I work with interns. And for example, the intern that I want to talk about right now she's 17 years. She's beautiful. She is also still a bit naive in a sense of, 17 years. This is her first working experience. And I really value a safe environment also for staff and for everybody. So she actually was very upset. She was really upset when she came to the office one day after an event. She actually was also quite hesitant in approaching me about it because she was also new. Could she approach me about it? Am I safe for her? How will I react? It's still, I think, for somebody who is young, really didn't know how to deal with feelings that she couldn't place.
So there's also some shame involved.
I think so, yes. Yeah. I took the time to really ask what was going on. And she experienced that somebody of her own team, so it's really interesting example and it's really close by, asked her to dance and she said no. But instead of keeping it there, this person should know, come on, let's dance. Don't be... And
Don't be a party pooper.
Yeah, something like that. Come on. Okay, let's dance like that. But she was like, I really don't want to. But of course, when you already said no, and it is a team member, how do you then respond to it? So she probably, against her will, still took some steps. And there wasn't any harassment. No. There wasn't anything that if you have watched the scene like a movie, there was just some open steps.
Yes, and we'll also assume that there's no bad intent.
Definitely not. Definitely not. And but for her, it was a big experience because she wasn't also a dancer. She was here for her internship, and she still also had to learn how to deal with social dancing, with dancing itself.
And of course, in this case, even though there's no bad intent from the men's perspective, there is a lack of awareness on two fronts. One of the importance of boundaries in any scenario.
And accepting the no.
The being able to, or how to handle rejection.
Yes.
I think these are good topics to touch on as well later in the conversation. Yeah.
What happened is that I really talked it through with her. And when I felt she really had everything processed, that I asked her, are you okay? Because I know this person didn't meant harm. And I know this person wasn't aware. Are you okay that I include him in this conversation? So instead of being a mediator, or not yes, I was a mediator, but instead of being the messenger between two people, I chose to be a mediator. So really be in a group chat with 3 people. Physically, so not in WhatsApp I invited him. He came to the office and he was so deeply in shock.
I can imagine.
Because he didn't meant this and he wasn't aware of this. So for him, this was a big eye-opener but also I think a big development in his further approach. So I think it was a really nice personal growth moment for him. Because after that, he was so much more aware because he is like really enthusiastic.
Yeah.
So it was his like puppy enthusiasm. I was like, oh, let's dance.
Yes.
And until today, they are now good, with each other.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot in this example that she experienced a boundary. He didn't notice her boundary, and then how to deal with it.
Yeah.
To also bring it to a good ending.
Yes. He might have just thought that she was shy and he wanted to give her a nice experience probably and be like, oh, we're going to have fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this is indeed a very beautiful example because it illustrates that very often in these gray area behavior cases is not so much bad intent or it's just a difference in perspective, right? From both sides.
And I know there are also app groups existing for women who are warning each other about don't dance with this man because he's coming into your personal space.
Yes.
Or sharing pictures. This man you should be careful about. It is a thing.
It's like a police, like a WhatsApp vigilance.
I am not in it, so I cannot give more information about it, but I know it exists.
Yeah.
And I know, therefore, it is a thing. Yeah. And I know that sadly, then it means that it's needed.
Yes.
They feel like it's needed to warn each other. And that is, I think, a very important gray area because ideally, that doesn't need to exist.
Yes, I mean, do you see this as a valid solution? These type of groups existing?
I think it is what women feel like they have an ability to influence. Something they can do themselves and also try to protect. So I think the intention is really good.
Yeah,
I think that if we can develop that into a step further, like the example of the team members that I just gave, because I don't think that 100% of the people that they share are with bad intentions.
No. Yeah.
So if we can make somehow a development in awareness, in also, and I think I can make a jump into this. I really want to be out there as an organization, and I really want to, and I have also some things in place that people know that they can approach us.
Yeah.
What I would ideally see is that people come to us. I experienced at this moment this with this visitor, because it also is the other way around. Let me point that out. It's not only women who experience this from men, it's also the other way around. Men also have unpleasant experiences with women. So let's just make this 100% conversation. Yes. If anybody feels like this person wasn't correct to me, it is very okay to approach us, because what we already done and what we already have in place and what I would like to see develop more is that when it's in this gray area, we can do the same mediation. So we can ask first for the experience. We can ask first, do you feel okay if we approach this person? And if the answer is yes, which in my experience is now always, then we choose to either be a 3, with the 3 of us, we have a conversation, or I approach the person itself with a warning as well. So I say, okay, are you aware that you come too close, or you didn't get this signal, or that you crossed this boundary, and then I can measure from the response if it's like completely unaware, or if it was like still looking for the boundaries. And I also always bring it with a warning, even it was unattended, because now somebody is aware.
Yes.
That's okay. Now you know that this has been experienced as unpleasant.
Yeah.
If I hear this happens again, it means that I will reject you from the event for one time. If I then hear again, if somebody, so it's like a 3 strikes out. So first I try to make aware, then I'm like, okay, if it happens again, then I am showing you again, and I'm saying, tonight it's over, go and think. It's like a sort of parental approach, I think. And then if you are still welcome to come back, but I expect you to change behavior. And if you haven't then changed the behavior, you're not welcome at any party, anytime. And we do have a small list. I'm very happy. We do have 4 people that we now have on the
No-go list.
No-go list. And then I also sent them, because then I'm already in touch. And these people have a text message from me really explaining that you didn't comply to our agreements. So it's really measurable for me as well. And it's on text. And I also show this to the security. Mm-hmm. And this is also an example, real life example, not from a few weeks ago, that it has been a few months ago that one person we have been through this process, we have rejected, but also typed it out in a WhatsApp message.
Yes.
And then it has been received. There can be no misunderstanding.
Yes.
But it also helps that it is on paper. Then I can, a few months later, this person has been spotted by the person that felt unsafe.
Yes.
And I asked her, what do you want me to do? You want me to remove him right now? Or do you want to see? Because it's always a conversation. Mm-hmm. Because we're not talking about the hard crossed lines. We're talking about the feeling unsafe.
Yes.
And then she said, well, for me, it's enough that the current security keeps an eye on him, mm-hmm. and that he stays away from me. That's enough for me, because it's still a big event.
Yes.
I went to the security, showed it's black and white. This is what we agreed on, even though but it's been months. So if he just blinks with his eyes in a way that we don't like, this is the message that you can hold him to and say, I'm sorry, you're not welcome here and I want to remove you. So I think there's so many steps in this process that makes the gray area measurable.
But also because it's many different steps, it also adds, of course, layers of complication and maybe also layers where we might miss certain cases. One girl might report, another girl might not report.
Definitely.
One security might be watching out, the other one might be like, okay, I don't really care about stuff I see way worse in other type of parties.
That's definitely true. And I think it's a big task. It's quite a responsibility. And I think that it's the ideal world if we could 100% get through the steps. But I hope with our awareness as an organizer and our awareness in our team and our effort in communication towards our visitors, but also the experience of our visitors with this process, that we give an example, mm-hmm. and that even if we have fixed it for one person, that they now feel safe where they first didn't feel safe, then I'm already yes, one step further.
Because of course now there's different stages to how to tackle this problem, right? Mm-hmm. Because the stage that we have been talking about now with the warnings and no-go lists, that is already a type of enforcement of your agreements, of your rules. Before that, of course, are already the prevention. And some of these groups that you mentioned where people as vigilantes, they inform each other. Mm-hmm. This might not be desired because it's also a little bit antagonizing in a way, right? Mm-hmm. Because you might be people, as you said, you might be putting people on the shame pole that have no bad intention. It could be somebody's dad who's just trying to learn the steps and maybe doesn't really realize when he comes too close to somebody, or mm-hmm. Somebody who smells bad and they don't even know themselves, right? Because that can also be unpleasant experiences.
Yes.
Are there any steps that you take prior to that moment, prior that the people walk into the party, to help them with their own awareness?
Yes, we do. Actually, at Stadhuisplein, we receive hundreds of people on an evening. And we start with a workshop, which is not uncommon, but it's always improvers level. Mm-hmm. We ask if there are beginners in the group, and there are always 20, 30 beginners. It's like it grew. It's like poof, it's not like 1, 2, 3. It's like a full class.
Yes.
We take them apart aside for two reasons. One is, okay, you will have a better experience if we give you now the workshop on your level. So for the beginners, we have really the opportunity here. So it's really consciously that we take this moment to, as an event, communicate with beginners, because here's the sweet spot and here's the first connection. This is about combining the basic step with etiquette. Is that an English word?
Yes, that's etiquette.
Yeah. We are talking about first approach.
Yes.
How do you approach?
Yeah.
How do you held? Where do you, as leaders and followers, I think it's very important to say leaders and followers, not men or women. So as a leader, where to put your hands? Where's the appropriate place? So this is a very first important start.
course.
Also, where as a follower do you put your hands in a way that you can also give resistance in a sense of, okay, I don't want to come closer. So we have the 3 steps of inviting to a dance, how to hold your hands, having the open position, the closed position, and as a leader and a follower, how to place the hands on the body.
Yeah.
Attention is a thing. In 45 minutes, we give a lot of attention to that. So I think there we weaponize everybody with the right approach, the right start, and the right mindset on how to also be chivalry.
Yeah.
Also be, because I think that's an awareness. I don't want to say my whole approach and everything that I do it from the positive perspective, not from the don't do this, don't do that. I'm like, this is the way. This is how you can approach it. This is how you can say no physically, putting the hands on the shoulder blade of the leader like that.
Yes.
And also there is a physical point with us as organizers, like, hey, this is us. You now recognize me or Sean or Brigitte or Erik. So you see more faces of the organization, and please come to us whenever you feel unsafe. So there's many layers in this 45 minutes, I think, that we can cover for weekly a group of 30 people. And this is, I think, a nice start, and which I'd love to expand, but also talking to teachers if they also have this part in their course.
Yes.
I think some do, some don't. So awareness here is for prevention, I think, a first beginning. And then also as a scene, taking the responsibility of how to teach your beginners not only to dance amazing or to feel amazing, but also to how to socially interact.
Yes. It's great if organizers, events give that first touch experience. And of course, we would also like all teachers to include this in their curriculums in the first touch with students. It's very important for people to anchor their expectations, especially because I think there are a lot of misconceptions also in the scene for both leaders and followers. But I could, for example, think that a lot of follows, they think that you always have to accept a dance. Or another big misconception that I hear is that it's taboo or not done to stop a dance. Once you're dancing, to say, okay, I don't feel comfortable, I'm going to step out. I've heard from a lot of followers that they think to do that is extremely rude and it's somehow their fault or their problem if they decide to do that. And I always try to make very clear that you don't have an obligation. And this is something on both sides. But actually, you're doing everybody a favor. Yourself, because you get out of an unpleasant situation. You're giving the person that you're dancing with also a clear signal that they're doing something wrong. As we said before, we hope that most of the people that give other people an unpleasant experience, they don't do it with bad intention. In such a scenario where you really set your boundary, you also give a signal, hey, something's happening and maybe it's time to self-reflect. And with that, you're also helping everybody else because you might help solve a certain type of behavior. Are there other misconceptions that you sometimes see on the dance floor that you would like to break through?
Yes, I think I have an example, which is that somebody wants to dance closer, but you don't.
Okay.
And this is, I think, mostly the leader, even if it's a man or a woman, but the leader, of course, is in charge of the position. And in some romantic numbers, people want to more cuddle, want to be more close, want to put the head behind their head. And I think it takes a lot of intuition of the leader to feel if there's the space to do this. And I think in most dances, there is this type of sensitive
body language.
Yeah, body language, and therefore trying to see, okay, is it okay if I come closer? And there is sometimes that people are unhandy with coming closer. So when people are not aware of the things that the signals that might already have been given, that's of course very awkward.
Yes.
There can be these awkward situations where the signals are missed or the signals are ignored not to want to dance closer.
Yeah. Good. Yes. So that's another good example. So we have misconceptions around being allowed to give a no, around being allowed to interrupt a dance, and being allowed to set your physical boundaries, your physical distance, right, in a more subtle setting as well. We have talked about the prevention, the first touch with dancers when they start dancing, the enforcement during the events, perhaps also during our events because there is enforcement on the personal level, like we're targeting a specific person, and there is maybe like a more broader, like a public approach. I could, for example, imagine like setting house rules at the entrance that people read, or a clear point of contact. What I've seen in other scenes outside of the social dancing scene, other types of parties, is sometimes awareness teams that will be at a party and they wear, for example, a shirt in a very clear color, like bright yellow or something. And everybody knows, okay, if I feel unpleasant, unsafe, or have a bad experience, these are my first points of contact. Because what I've talked about on the podcast before, in our scene in general, is we don't have an HR. If you are a dancer in a team, if you're taking classes, if you go to a party and you have a bad experience, there's not a department that you go to in general, right? Yeah, where you come with these problems.
Like the sort of example that I gave was a simple HR example, because I took it up to me to the mediation, and they came to me. But I understand what you're saying, because it's not official, it's not known. And I think it's very inspirational what you're sharing about other parties, because we are still learning. We are in a process of improving this. So I think it's also a very good tip that I would like to imply, to wear clear shirts and have clear communication about, hey, this is people you can approach very easily. So good.
Great. Thanks. Nice. Yeah. We're not only discussing about things, we're also brainstorming.
Definitely. No, but I want to learn all the time about how to improve this, because I am talking about my own, what I can influence. And meanwhile, I hope to inspire, but I cannot influence what other people, other parties, other etc. do. But I think this is a good thing that I can adapt to our organization.
What do you think we can do, for example, online? I've seen other events, to name, for example, Summer Breeze. They share clearly on their platforms rules of conduct, and they hinted at these gray area behaviors, like, hey, try to make it a pleasant experience for everyone.
Yes, this is actually a sensitive question.
It can be sensitive, yes.
Because I love Summer Breeze. I am in very good contact with Mimo, the organizer. And I don't want to say anything that is putting this into a bad point of view. Because I think that it's super important that they have this type of approach. But I am from a different approach. For me, I am of the law of attraction. What do you point out? Are you pointing out what people cannot do? Don't do this, don't do that, don't think about a red elephant. What are you doing right now? It's a red elephant, right?
Yes.
My approach is more, be the pink elephant, be the pink elephant, be the pink elephant. So that's a different approach.
Yeah.
And I want to be the last. So if you're talking about online, I'm very, very, very hesitant about putting things into text, about telling people how to behave, because it is putting a lot of attention to things that I think are very important, but also, let's be reasonable, are luckily very minimum. Yes, it's there. Yes, we're talking about it. Yes, we're acting on it. Yes, we think there's a lot to change about it. But online communication, people's attention is very scarce online. People are very selective. And I don't want to attract people's attention to the harassment part, because I think that attracts more harassment. I feel like I want to, when it comes to online communication, in the stories that we share on the event, we are more about communication. Hey, this is us. Come to me but I take it more broadly, for complaints, for compliments, for just a talk, but also if you feel unsafe. So I try to make the scope a little bit bigger. But also I have a beautiful example that I really believe in, that I really experienced myself. In the beginning of our event, we started in Coconuts. People who know Rotterdam know that, for people who don't know it, Coconuts has a reputation of really clubbing. So no salsa bachata clubbing, in a way of people getting really drunk. People come there to chase. People come there to find partners to have sex with. So no, it's like the opposite. It's 180 degrees.
Yes.
Also, people could really act aggressive and stuff. So it is a challenge, for me to start in coconuts, there's a complete story there. I will spare it because it's not for the point at this moment. But it was really a wonderful challenge to start somewhere where this was the environment.
Yeah.
To bring something that's a complete opposite environment. And what I experienced lively is the psychological effect of having 90% of the people behaving positive.
Yeah.
There was one guy with his hoodie, with really negative body language, really being aggressive, really having his elbows through the crowd.
Yeah.
But what happened? Nobody gave it attention. Nobody gave the guy something back. Nobody's like, what are you doing here? Go out. You don't belong here. So what happened? Because he didn't get attention, it didn't stick. It was so interesting for me to watch.
Yeah.
I was observing because, of course, I was already into the moment of should I step in here?
Yes.
But I was observing and I saw it didn't stick. So I saw him just going away. But I also experienced this with motorcyclers, not because motorcyclers are bad. So this is a really important frame. I'm not framing, but because they do have presence.
Yes.
And instead of being dominant, they adapted to the experience. So they put away the motorcycles. They were like, "Oh, what's going on?" Yeah. So they were first hanging with the arms like this and a big observing. And then I saw them ontdooien. How do you say it? I saw them open up. I think that's the right way. So I think that there's also a lot of chances and a lot of opportunity in setting the 90%. How do we want it? And setting the 90% culture and being an example and being as a culture treating each other the way that we like to see it. And there I think we can naturally switch the other 5%. Yeah. Then there's 5% left maybe. But I think there's also a strategic way of how to approach it. Yeah. Can you, it's a difference. It's a difference.
Yes. And also interesting to me, we mentioned it briefly before, like what is a problem in coconuts, people went for certain intentions and also it's like a club, so they drink. In general, what do you see the role of alcohol in these kind of events? Is it often related to gray area behavior with consumption of alcohol?
I can say yes. I dare to say yes, because I see the difference between parties where there's an urban area or where it's not. I love urban. Let me put that out there. I love dancing urban. I love the urban music. But I think this brings in the club vibe. Yeah. In the sense of there, people consume alcohol more, maybe even the dancers. Maybe even me, I don't drink. But for example, because there's another way of going out, you know, it's you dance solo, you dance with your drink, have another drink. It's a part of the culture of urban. So we don't have urban intentionally for that reason. And I see that there's minimum alcohol drinking in our events, the wine, the beer, the whiskey, one whiskey. It is also a challenge as an organizer because this is a very part of income. And in income, you have to have income in order to invest, in order to make a nicer experience. And if there's less income, then you can less invest in development, for example. So this is a thin line. Yeah. I do understand why organizers want to attract people who spend more on drinking. Yeah. Because therefore you can also invest more in development. So this is a thin line. But yes, in my personal experience, in my choices that I make, I do think that alcohol plays a big role. And I also have one guest that I know is a great person and I know is a great dancer. But one night he had too many to drink and he was a pain in the ass. Yes. And I did put him outside and I did tell him to go and sleep it out. Yeah. He didn't, and he escalated the situation. And I really had a tough talk with him after. Yeah,
unpleasant. And are there any like concrete steps that you take at your events? Do you, for example, ask your bartenders to not serve drinks to people that are visibly drunk? Or are there any particular, more stricter rules that you have?
Well, luckily we don't need to. Okay. We only have been experienced one escalation in 10 years. Yeah. And we saw it.
And another point we mentioned that is important is that what is the intention of people when they go to a party?
Definitely.
I think one thing that makes people feel safe to have a lot of physical contact, because that's what happens when you go to a dance party. You have physical contact with way more people than you would in any other party experience. is that you feel safe because you assume that primarily it is about the dance activity. And I can tell from a personal experience, people that tell me that they feel unpleasant when they go, and they feel like every time they're asked to dance, they're being talked to instead of danced with. And it is a very weird situation because somebody asks you to dance, so you're sort of like trapped in that moment. And then you're forced to talk to them in a way that's implying more intention than just the dance itself. And I heard that from followers that they experience that more in certain places. For example, I hear they experience this more in Rotterdam compared to Amsterdam. And I could see different reasons. For example, that in Amsterdam, a lot of the socials, it's dominated by international crowds, that are often expats or international students that really go to these classes to improve their skills, and they're serious about the dance and the technique. And in Rotterdam, I often see it more as a social activity still. Is this something that you recognize as well?
Personally, so only from personal experience, not like in a broader scope. I do sometimes, but I don't recognize it from complaints or people telling me this. Yeah. So I can imagine in my personal experience, I dance, but also in other type of parties. I really, because I'm already like an experienced social dancer, so I really easily pick out when it is somebody's first dance and their hand is too low, and I'm like, oh, I just pick it up and put it higher. But that's my personal response. If somebody talks too much, I'm like, I'm here to dance, which we just enjoy. Yeah. I think it's in this particular case, I have the assertiveness.
You learn to set your boundaries.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think it's a process as well. I don't know if this is a big thing, and if it is, I'd like to know.
Yeah. Interesting, yeah. Of course, it's also always your point of reference. You know, some people are used to certain things. Some people have higher tolerance for other things.
Yes.
Do you have any particular, around this topic, any particular steps or approaches that you're thinking about for the future?
Well, I love your idea of the t-shirts. So it's really hands-on. It's really practical. I think daily we want to gain more practical tips and daily try to improve. But also we have a big mission, a big vision when it comes to Shine Festival, because here we touch a lot of people. Last time 5,000 people, but we want to go to like 10,000s of people, like really festival. And here we have I'm going to, and you can cut it out, but I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah, that's fine.
I already have an invitation for you. Oh, right. Because I think your podcast is so important because it goes into depth, because it goes into the behind, the shines. I'd like to invite you for an own stage, for a behind the shines stage, where you host your talk, your podcast, because we will receive, even in the future, amazing artists from all over the world. This is our wish and where we are wanting to grow through. And you have the opportunity to have this 10-minute talks, 1-hour talks, whatever you like, however you like to shape it.
I love the idea and the invite. So thank you so very much. Yes. I think this would be a great idea. Already I am talking to some events like the Berlin Congress to also host a panel talks there.
Perfect.
And we're going to experiment with different formats, because it's especially these kind of messages that you are sharing that I think are important to reach a wider audience. I think that's a great way to make the scene a better place, because in the end, as we said, the people that are involved in these gray area behaviors, I personally believe that 90% of them, it's just a lack of awareness and understanding of the other person's perspective. And by getting these types of messages out to them, we will already have a big impact on the experience for everyone. So, yes, thank you very much for the invite. I love the talk today. We really went into depth on one topic that we agreed was very important to talk about. So usually we're more all over the place, but I'm very happy that we could find some depth in this topic. I'm really happy, especially because this is also a topic that's close to my heart, and I think that touches close to the intention of what this channel should be. So thank you very much, Cammy, for being here with me today to talk about this. And I hope you will continue for many years to improve the scene, to organize big events, to create new things, and be a positive influence here in the Netherlands, and hopefully also beyond that.
Thanks so much for this opportunity, your beautiful words, and your work in making this possible to put this out there.
Of course. Thank you so much. Yes, this was the latest episode of Behind the Shines. I'm going to post some short reels on Instagram to draw your attention. And of course, the full episode will be found on Spotify and YouTube. So I hope you check this one out. And I thank you again very much for your time today.
You too.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.